Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I got a 2.0 interview here. We interviewed my boy Jason Holzer here from Florida Athletes back in August of 2020. He's one of my first COVID friends, if you will, and to me, I think COVID's the best thing that's really happened to a lot of businesses if you handled it the right way. And one of the blessings that I had is I was introduced through Shay Sparks, a good friend of ours, and also Jason. And Jimmy Huber, his partner in crime there. I got to interview both of them. Jason and I had a fantastic interview back in episode 114. And we're by the time Jason drops, we'll be pushing in the 350s and 360s. So there's a lot for me and Jason to catch up on. We, text, here and there and chat with each other. But the things that he's doing for the children and the youth in the future is above reproach, man, and I'm so proud of him. And other than being a Cardinals fan, he's spot on everything, man. So Jason, brother, just welcome back, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It was nice to catch up with you off camera, off mic for a little bit, but tell us a little bit about what's going on with you, brother.
Scott, man, it's always great to see you. It looks like you're doing well. Excited for your show to keep growing, and excited to be 2.0. It's really cool because you mentioned like working with youth and that kind of thing. But I think, too, like the important thing is what I've realized is, yes, as important it is to work with youth, it's also important that we help the youth, like who they go home to, which is parents. Because parents, as much as we try to teach our youth in school and sports and extracurriculars, like their home life really dictates a lot of their, who they show up as, right? So, a lot of it too is like we're working with kids, but now we've found this like connection with parents that like, man, we really want to, how can we serve them better, right? Because we can serve them better, then kids get better, then everybody gets better.
Yeah. And I love that. Like it starts with, I guess, the root system of the parents. And I know correctly that you guys really get the parents involved within your guys' activities and situations, correct?
Yeah, that's the goal, man, is to have parents like working with their kids, learning and growing together, and really sparking conversation and connection, right? Because every time a kid feels more connected to their parent, they're going to show up much differently at school, in sports, in extracurriculars, just because they feel supported. And I know about you, but like anytime I felt supported, I showed up with more confidence. Right. I showed up with courage. I showed up with more like just feeling good about myself, Absolutely. And so I think like, when parents can understand like your support is everything to their kids, right, and how you do that in a certain way to make their kid feel like they're, the best thing in the world, and not in an arrogant way, but just like showing up like, hey, no matter what happens, I know I'm going to be loved, supported, and cared about.
Right.
And when kids have those basic needs, man, like they can really start to thrive.
With that being said, man, you're a very curious person. To me, curiosity is the biggest superpower anyone can have. But what's your take really on the trophy for everybody? What's your mentality of setting kids up for the future and teaching them about wins and losses? Because I'm a big believer, hey, you compete, you get the trophy that you earned. Okay, but there's differences of opinion across the board, but that's what I feel has really helped me out. Like, where do you see parents going with that conversation with their children right now?
Yeah, I think if you can help your kids win the game within, and what I mean by that is like, there's a lot of people struggling with anxiety, depression, lack of self-worth, overthinking, doubting themselves. And if you can instill like, yourself by helping yourself win the game within of those kind of things, and you help your kid do that, then what you're going to have is a kid that's going to be able to grow up, be interdependent, like, they know they need help, but they're able to go out and try things and go for things, live their dreams, if you will. But they're always going to want to come back to you as their safeguard, as their person that's like, hey, you know what? I want to come back and visit you for Christmas. I want to spend time with you. I want to go on trips with you. I want to share my deepest struggles. I want to share my biggest celebrations. Like,
that's awesome.
I think at the end of the day, that's what every parent wants, is just to feel connected to their kid beyond the rearing years, if you will, or the years that they have to stay connected with you, right? Do they want to come back and be with you after they've had the chance to go out on their own and you've done all the things that you can do up till 18? I think that's the ideal, and then like if you ever have a chance to be a grandparent one day, or you name it, like just to feel that lifelong connection, that's
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's winning,
So
in my
good.
opinion.
Right. Where are you seeing then with parents? I don't know if I want to call it maybe a blind spot, but kind of like a disconnect with the children. Not maybe not so much the people that you're working with, but maybe the people that are first coming in to 4D athletes, right? Where do you think the biggest disconnect between parents and their children is right now?
I think they're not asking enough questions about what kids are truly interested in.
Ooh,
And I think they're putting a lot of pressure on their kids to perform, because I think subconsciously they feel like, I'm just using sports as an example because that's
please
the
do.
arena
That's
I
what we're
live in.
about, man. It's 4D athletes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like there's so much pressure on their kids to perform a certain way, or, be on a certain team, or play year round, or whatever. Like kids, like they feel so much pressure that it's not fun anymore.
Sure.
Or the car ride home is more like talking about what they did wrong or what they could have done better, as opposed to praising effort, as opposed to saying things like, hey, you know what? I just loved watching you play.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
it was a joy for me just to see you get out there. I know you tried your best. I know you all came up a little bit short, but man, it was fun to see you out
Right.
there. And I think that in itself is like, oh, so I don't have to do a certain thing to like get your appraisal or to get your approval. I can just go out and live my best life and try my best, and that's good enough. Like, I think that's where, you get a lot of great parenting, a lot of great connections, whenever kids aren't expected to score 5 goals or to hit 2 home
Yeah.
runs or to score 30 points or whatever it is. I mean? So, and a lot of it too, I think, parents are like, well, I missed out on my sports opportunity, so my kid's a great avenue for me to relive the dreams that I wish I had.
Vicariously through that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was like, is that your kid's dream? What if your kid's dream is to build robots? Or what if your kid's dream is to be a great artist? And they just use sports as a social avenue, right? Like,
Right.
we don't ask our kids, like, hey, why do you want to play sports in the first place?
Right.
What's the goal? And if it's simply just my friends are doing it,
Mhm.
I shouldn't be trying to sign them up for all these like private trainings with all these coaches that are, because they're gonna hate it.
Right.
So I think also getting clear on like, what's the goal here? What is sports gonna do for us? Not what is sports gonna do to us.
Ooh, I love that, man. And the kids these days, or even when I was younger, they're told no by the time they're 13, 135,000 times on average. Okay. And so that we're born salespeople. I'm sure your kids, you go through the checkout line, they're like, Dad, can we? You know what I'm saying? You see that M&Ms or whatever, like we're born, but that's just instilled out of us or just kind of taken out of us. Do you go through any coaching with parents when you're starting to work with them about providing affirmative feedback, or if you have to say no, there's a certain way to say it, because that's just what I've came across with my coaching of parents. I don't do it from like an athlete's level, but I just hear no a lot, and I was told no a ton. It took a friend of mine whose parents encouraged him, because I believe that's the biggest gift you can give a child is encouragement, period.
Yeah, encouragement. And and I've done a deep dive in the parenting and study from a lot of great people, just because I wanted to figure out for myself, because my kids are 6 and 3, right? And I was going down this path of like, man, this is frustrating. And like, you don't get a manual on this kind of stuff. It's just like, hey, you know what? Most people parent how they were parented. And there's a lot of great stuff my parents did, but there was also some things of like, is there a way to evolve parenting? Because, we as humans, it's natural for us to evolve, right? So it's like, there's some things like, value systems, things that I take away from my parents did for me, like doing the right thing, integrity, like that kind of stuff. All those kind of things are important. But I was like, I didn't feel like I had much of a voice growing up. And it wasn't like something that my parents did intentionally. I just felt like, you know what, I'm the oldest kid. I got to be the most helpful, follow the rules, you name it. And so I was like, that's all good and fine. But as I got older, I was nervous to speak up a little bit as a kid. I wasn't as great at advocating for myself either. Right. So I'm like, what can I do for my kids to help them be a great advocate? And so when they ask something and I was like, I have to tell them no. First, I respond by asking them a question. I'm like, do you think this is going to make you better, healthier, or is it going to benefit somebody else?
Hmm. And if the
And
answer is
I asked
no,
this to
well,
my
how do you handle
6-year-old, and he's like, no, 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 but I still want it. I was like, fair, it's candy. Okay, yeah,
it?
you
Yeah.
still. So then it opens up another conversation of like, there's things that we want and there's things that we need, right? So sometimes the things that we want is that I know you like to run fast. Is that going to help you run faster? Is candy going to
Ooh,
help you
I
run
like
faster?
it, man.
And,
Yeah.
and so I just like, and like, and he's like, no, probably not, Dad. And you can see like the disappointed face. I was like, okay, like, hey, buddy, now that you know, I'm gonna let you make this decision. And every once in a while, I was like, I'll let him make the decision.
Yeah.
Not know that he has the full understanding of like what's going on.
Love it,
And if
man.
he still chooses it, I was like, okay, man, I just want you to know, like, this is probably not gonna help you run faster. It's like, I know, but I really want it. I was like, okay. Because I think what we want to do is like, we don't want to create a kid that's just gonna rebel because they was like, no, no, no. Because whenever they make their own choices, then what we've seen is the rebound effect. The kids just go nuts, right?
Right.
On stuff.
Right.
So, and what we found out is like he will now. This is crazy. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is like something that we did per se or what. But he's like, Dad, can I have some celery for a snack? Oh,
Oh, it has a lot to do with what you're saying,
you
man.
know, and I wonder, and I wonder if it's like, okay, since he feels like he's able to make his own choices more, so he has a say in what he gets to choose to eat.
Yeah.
He's realizing that, what that does to. He's like, even told me the other day, he's like, Dad, I don't even know if I can eat that much. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, and no matter what he says, I always try to stay as monotone as possible. Like never
Sure.
like too
Even.
excited to, okay, man,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, tell me more. What do you think about that? And just, I think the more that we can ask questions to get into what's going in their mind, it helps me direct the way that I parent, if that makes sense.
Love it.
Now,
No,
sometimes there's some absolutes like, hey, buddy, this is for your safety, so daddy has to say no on this
gotta
one.
know. Yeah. I
You
love
know,
it. But at least you're explaining it to him, Jay, that
yeah,
it's a safety thing versus, me not wanting you to have it. And it's not good for you.
right.
And I got to ask you, and we can cut this part out if it goes too deep for you. But, your father took his life.
Mhm.
I've went through it with my little brother and stuff. How much of that really encapsulates who you are now, wanting to work with parents with their children?
I mean, fatherhood, yeah. I've always wanted to be a dad, right? And that's something that I was like super excited about. But losing my dad, I think I realized how important a great dad is in a kid's life. And what I mean by great dad means like you're there, you're giving your best effort every day. Like
Yeah.
nobody's meant to be perfect, but are you showing up? Are you trying? If you mess up, do you like, hey man, like I tell my son all the time, like, daddy messed up on this. My bad, buddy. Like I raised my voice too loud at you. I was frustrated. I had a tough day at work, things. So
That's so
even
strong.
when I do mess up, I let him know, like if I was too hard on him or that kind of stuff. Because we as parents, we have our own issues and things that go on throughout the day and stuff. But I think the key thing is like fatherhood. They've done studies on how much more successful kids are that have present fathers that are engaged
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
you don't, like I said, nobody's perfect at this, but just show up, man. Like just show up. And you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to be like the perfect person, but
Sure.
you just have to be available.
I love it, man. Yeah, I'm actually typing that out, man. Don't be perfect, available, man. It's so true. And my father, we're best friends and stuff like that. But he worked on the line at General Motors, and he wasn't able to make my sporting events, which actually, I think, excelled me to want to be like, hey, look at the paper. I made the paper. I'm saying that. But at the same time, there was one wrestling match. It was against a super arch rival. Both of our high schools were on the same campus. You'd actually see the guy that you're wrestling against that day. And I got lucky and I stuck and I pinned him. And I just kind of looked up the audience saying, oh man, there's my dad. Bro, there was nothing like that. And he's just like clapping and going nuts. And he made the time to make it to the rivalry one. And I just love that you're just saying, hey, be present for your child, even if you can't so much physically be there, because there are some parents, especially in this day and age and economy and whatnot, they got to work, right?
Yeah. No, they have to.
And how do you go about those parents that like maybe have latchkey children They want them to be involved in great things like sports and stuff like that to build confidence and to learn competition. But like, how do you work with those parents, Jason, that really have to be absentee because maybe they're a single father, a widow or widower? Like, how do you work with them?
Yeah, I think if I have to be gone for a little while,
Mhm.
what I did, I'll make I have a little canvas that has like things that my kids' favorite things, and I drew a picture of it. Like, I'm not an artist by any means, but like I have it where like it sits by my son's beds, and they're like, "Hey, look, buddy, Daddy is going to be physically gone for a little while, but this is something that you can keep next to you, knowing that Daddy always comes back.
Yeah.
Daddy always comes back. I will call you, I'll check in on you, make sure you're doing well. But just because Daddy's gone, though, there's still some standards that we have to live up to. Like, you still got to, do what you're supposed to do in school, help out grandma or whoever's watching
I
you,
love it, man.
that kind of thing. So like, and what that does is that builds integrity of like, who are you when the point of authority is not around? What are the decisions you're making? Because I was like, look, man, I'm not going to be around all the time to tell you what to do, what not to do. So like, I want you to know that I care about you, I love you, and even if I'm gone, here's this thing to remember me by. What the cool thing he did was, he's like, Dad, you know what? I drew you a picture. He colored me in a picture of like a gingerbread house. He's like, I want you to take this on your trip with you so you remember me. And I was like, okay, great, but yeah,
My
thank
dude,
you for that.
that's awesome.
So it's like just being an example of what it means to care about somebody, right?
Yeah.
You can't be by somebody all the time, 24/7. That's just unrealistic, right?
Yeah,
It's not
and it's
healthy.
probably not great because they
Yeah, it's not
have
healthy.
to still mold themselves.
Yeah,
Wow.
so but what are the things you can do that still build connection even when you're not there? And it could be something super simple as like draw a little picture, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and like this sounds, cliche, but things are cliches and worn out because they work. But you tell them, hey, you're the man of the house when I'm gone.
Mhm.
You have responsibilities that you're ready for, and it builds. I remember the first time my dad told me that, as a kid, I'd be like, really? Yeah, man. I'm watch my little brothers, and I have it, and the responsibility you gave me, man, it was awesome. So
Yeah. And look at just PBA real quick, like make sure whenever you say things like, hey, you're the man of the house, like you explain to them what that means. Because
yeah,
I have a story about that kind of like went the wrong way. Like, so after my dad passed away, and I talk about this in my book, elderly woman, I don't know, she was probably a family friend or whatever. She's like, well, hey, you're the man of the house now. And I was like 17. I'm like, oh my gosh, does that mean like I'm working at a grocery store making like $8 an hour at the time, right? Like, what does that mean?
right.
So I think like the thing is like, hey, bud, you're the man of the house at 6 years old. What that means is I need you to get ready for school on time. I need you
Yeah,
to be helpful with grandma for
love it.
just listen. So like I think we could do a better job of like being a little bit more detailed about what we mean. So that way kids aren't coming up with their own stories about what this stuff means, right?
I
So
love that, man.
because that's where like the nervousness, worry, that kind of stuff, whenever they're in their own heads and you don't direct them in a way what you mean by things, then you leave it up to them to figure it out. And you and I know, man, you can come up with a bunch of different things of what that could mean. So
Right. And I love that you broke that down because it could be as easy as saying, hey, man, you make sure that, you help mom out, clean the litter box or whatever he's capable of doing at the age and give him the responsibilities. And like you said, I believe you said, sharing the lessons and when the point of authority is not around, and what they could be doing. And that's awesome, man. So tell me a little bit about the MVP, the most valuable parenting, and the program you got going on with that, sir.
Yeah, so we're starting that up here probably in about a week or so, maybe after Thanksgiving, but it's most valuable parenting. And we partnered with Ria Lala from buildgreatminds.com. And she's in Canada area, but she's somebody I've learned a lot of these great emotional intelligence parenting strategies from.
Okay.
And we're going to do like a 5-day mini classes on each day on the 5 A's of parenting. So that way you understand like, how can I show up more emotionally present with my kid? And then after that, like we're going to offer something too as well for people. There's a coaching program that we're going to offer as well that you can have with us to really go and become the best parent, the most valuable parent, if you will, you could be to your kids. So that way, whenever they become like 18, 19, 20, 25, whatever it is, the experiences you gave them as a kid they're going to remember that, and they're going to want to come back in a healthy way to
Right.
spend time with you, visit you. I'm not talking about like the boomerang kid that's like hanging out in your basement, which I mean, no problem with that either. I mean, that happens
Sure.
sometimes.
Yeah, man.
Kids, but you want your kids to thrive and fly, right? When they nest, right? But they come back because they want to come back. They're doing well. So that's a lot of what it, then we're using sports as a term because, a lot of people have their kids in sports at some point, and what are the things in life lessons that you can use in sports too to help you become a better parent as well and support your kid in their activities.
And let me ask you something then, because you've laid a lot out today, but it's 19 years in the future. Your boy's 25, right? Yeah, 25 because he's 6.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the biggest victory at 25 for your son? Meaning, like, what would make you feel the best when he's 25?
I would say seeing him happy, healthy, and helpful. The 3 H's. He's loving what he's doing, but he's challenging himself. He's getting better every day. He's creating opportunities. He's healthy, like he has healthy relationships. He's around great people. Because you and I know, like, you're your kid's biggest influence till about 11, 12, but then it's like, who do you surround yourself with? Right. So that he's picked a great group of people that are going to encourage him, that kind of thing. And then, like, who is he helping? Right. Who is he? How is he making the world a better place? And then I think, and then obviously, like, another thing would be like home. The 4th age would be like he calls, he connects, hey, let's go do something. Whether it's like, let's go pick up a new sport like golf, or let's go catch a movie, or hey, come fly out and hang out with me for a weekend, or whatever it is. So I think those 4 things at the end of the day, whatever he's doing, as long as he's
father like you, Jason. I'm not trying to blow smoke, but you guys are going to be tight. You guys will be coming down to Abaco and catching St. Louis Cardinal, spring training games and whatnot. That's the reason why I've even picked 25 is, because like you said, you're connected with your kid till they're like 12, and then they know everything, of course. I know I
find their own identity.
Right. But the reason why I take, because physiologically your brain is developed. It's funny, we're mush in the brain, still mushy until we're 25. That's the only reason why I picked 25. And I wanted to hear your insights on that. So we'll move on to the 4 central questions that we talked about a little bit off camera and off the mic here. Tell us a little bit about the insight struggles that and whatnot that's coming together with the 4 central questions that you're rolling out.
Yeah, these are 4 essential questions that I've found that, like, as I've studied a lot and, like, kind of thought, processed, meditated on, like, man, if I were to ask somebody 4 questions that were essential for me to get to know them as a leader, whether you're a parent at home, teacher, coach, CEO, whatever it is, if I could ask you, and number 1 is, like, who do I want to be? And now please understand, like, this is probably for kids that are like, maybe 8th grade, 14, 15, they've had some life experience, right? They kind of have some cognitive ability, writing ability. But first one is, like, who do I want to be? I'm not talking like externally. I'm not talking like doctor, lawyer. I'm talking like winning the game within. Like, is it, do I want to be confident? Do I want to be bold? Do I want to be courageous? Do I want to be joyful? Like, what are the things that I want to feel on a daily basis? Because at the end of the day, we're all chasing a feeling of, like, peacefulness, satisfaction, fulfillment.
Yeah.
That's where all of our internal struggle comes from, is because we're trying to chase all these things that are going to try to, like, give us this, like, inner peace, or, like, fulfillment, or, like, praise, acceptance, whatever it is. And that's why we feel so empty, is because we're trying to chase. And it fills for a little while, but then that chase, monster comes again. And it's like, oh man, okay, what's next?
Keep going.
What's next?
We all understand that the top of one mountain is the beginning of another one for the successful, but like what you were saying is, like, chasing it instead of, like, really dialing it in and climbing up. How about number 2?
So then, now that I know, like, let's say I'm just going to use confidence, because that's a big one, right? Most parents want their kids to feel confident.
Sure.
What do I need to do in order to feel confident? So this gives me a blueprint. Okay, I need to think about, and what I do is I give people like 2 to 3 minutes, because I want them to think off the top of their head. I don't want them to overthink it. Okay, so maybe it's like, study somebody that's really confident. Maybe it's, famous athlete that they see as confident. Maybe it's an actor. Maybe it's somebody in their life. Okay, so maybe it's a book I need to read or whatever it is. That what do I need to do to help me develop confidence? So these are the action steps. Then the third question is, and they all build off of each other. So this is like the foundation is like, who do I want to be?
I can see it, yeah.
Next one, what do I need to do to make that happen now? Now that the seed's been planted, you've been fertilizing it, right? So what do I do? What will I have? What will manifest from it? Well, I'll have probably better relationships when I'm confident. I'll probably have more opportunities in life. I'll feel better about myself. These, and then it helps people like see like, oh, that's what I'll have if I do this, if I want to be this. And then the last piece is like that completes the circle is, what can I give back? If I'm confident, maybe I can start a foundation. Maybe I can go out and build a startup that's going to change the world. I can give back. I can truly like make a difference and live on purpose, right? And then, because the more that we're able to give back, the more that we feel like we're on purpose, the more we feel more fulfilled in our lives, and we feel better about ourselves.
Living on purpose.
So it's a mental health piece. It's a living on purpose piece, right? So, and then as a leader, you can have people do that. Maybe whether it's the janitor, whether it's whoever it is, your admin assistant, and you can look at that and say, oh, you know what? Scott said he wants to feel more joyful. Okay, what are some resources I can help him out with? Maybe feel more joyful. Hey, why don't you go learn how to meditate? I'll here's this conference here, or here's this. You know what? Why don't you take you and your wife and you all go to that, and then check it out. Let me see what you think. I love it. Because then you have like everybody wants to know like, how can I be a better leader? How can I help the people that are working for me? How can I help the people that I'm coaching? You know what? This can give you a blueprint without, and then if you have a conversation with them, like, hey, you know what? I saw that you said you want to be joyful here. How's that going for you? It's a conversation starter as well. Yeah. And people feel like you care about them because you took the time to read what they wrote down, and now you're asking them about it. And anybody that feels cared about will go 10 times further than somebody that's just
absolutely. They'll unpack so much more, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome, dude. I love that. It's a fantastic blueprint of really anything in life. Just doesn't have to be kids or parents. I mean, anything. Any leader you have, I love it, man. I might incorporate a little bit of that into my own coaching, sessions and stuff with my clients, because I get, it's a proven track record with those 4 questions. So, Jason, we got to kind of move it along a little bit, and I'd be remiss not to take you through our leveling up lightning round again. Okay, I added a couple questions for you. Okay, and again, no explanations. You got 5 seconds to answer them. No explanations. You ready to level up? Let's go. I'm ready. Here we go. Jason, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received? Just get better every day. Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success. Journaling. Beautiful. Your most commonly used emoji when you text? Thumbs up. Nicknames growing up? Sparkplug. I love it. Never knew that. Jaybird, Sparkplug, and Jaybird, because I have bird legs, right? Because I'm a pretty slender guy. So Jaybird and Sparkplug. I love it, man. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly? Checkers. Love it. Me too. Love it. Go-to ice cream flavor? Ooh, Moose Tracks. Dude, you are the second person today on the interview. I swear. You'll see. That's awesome. Moose Tracks that said that. There's a sandwich called the Spark Plug for Jason Holzer. What's on that sandwich? Build it for me. Burnt ends, provolone cheese, and some nice pickles on there. Nice. Favorite charity and organization like to give your time or money to, Jay? Movember. It's men's mental health. Yeah, baby. Good for you. And last question. I've asked you this before, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s? Whew. I gotta say early 2000s. Okay, very cool. And your let me just check here. Your favorite color still kind of yellow, gold, orange. Orange. Yeah. Okay, very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. So Jay, how can we find you, bro? Yeah, so our website's 40athletes.com, and it's same with LinkedIn. You're watching on. Here we go. 4D, baby. Facebook. We're on all the YouTube, you name it. And then my personal one is in my Instagram,
is Jay Holzer, and then LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as well, my personal LinkedIn too.
Awesome. And all those will be in the show notes as well. And Jason, do me one solid here again and leave us with a knowledge nugget that we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Yeah. I would say one thing that I've done recently is just be more present, like be where your feet are. And I know that's not my own. That's what I've heard multiple times. And like, so what I've started doing is like, when I get home from work, I put my phone in a different room.
Yeah.
Right. I try to do that much more often.
Hell yeah.
And just because my kids are going to be this little for so long, I'm like, man, like it's going to fly by. It already has. So like, I'm with my wife, with my family, with the people that matter to me,
Yeah.
my students, just trying to be more where my feet are.
Love
and I'm
it,
not,
man.
I mean, I messed up and that kind of stuff, but I'm trying
Sure.
to get better every day about just being more present and being where my feet are.
And I love it. And squad, Jason is always present when we're talking. I could just, if I was a fly on the wall, I could see him talking to parents and even the youth and being super present as well. You know, it's important who the children go home to. And that's really paramount to Jason for helping the level up, you know, from the roots with the parents. You know, the home life dictates on who Jason reminded us that the home life dictates who the child's going to grow up to be. You know, and everybody kind of shows up differently. And that's what's great about life. And that's where Jason can really dig in with the parents to help them level up their game, to bring their kids in to win the game within, you know, to grow up. Jason's passion is to see these kids grow up to be interdependent, motivated, but also come back to the parents, to have a great relationship as they get older. You know, Jason sees his son when he's 25 going out and visiting him, you know, at his place, catching ball games and hanging out and having that connection. That's what he wants to see through 40 athletes. The parents have the connections with the children. You know, he brought up, you know, what can sports do for your child, not to them. So he wants the children to be passionate about that. He wants the parents to see that they're passionate about it as well, you know, and he reminds us that, you know, what you're doing, does it make you better, healthier, or benefit someone else? And it shouldn't say what you're doing, it's what you want. And he reminds us that, does it make you better, healthier, benefit someone else? You know, and as a parent, he wants you to show up for your kids if it's possible. He wants you to own the mistakes that you make and be transparent, because the kids will feed off that and say, it's okay to make mistakes, just come back better. Okay. And basically, he gave us the three, actually 4 H's of happy, healthy, helpful, and also the home life. And he reminds us about the 4 essential questions, which is a fantastic blueprint, you know, a playbook with, you know, who do you want to be, or what do you need to do, what action you need to take to get that, what will manifest from this, and how can you give back? And you can't get any better. And he just really, for lack of a better term, dumbed it down for people like me to grasp that. You know, Jason is somebody that, you know, like Bobby Knight used to say, the more immortal or the more you mentor, the more immortal you become. And that's what Jason does, is he's always mentoring, he's always lifting up. And people are going to remember my good friend Jason from this, because he's planting trees that he's never probably going to sit in the shade of. And he wants you to be more present in the moment. So many people have a foot in the future, a foot in the past, they piss all over the present. When we sit there in the present and really know where we're at, be there now, be present for your children, be present for your spouse, be present for yourself. And that's what my good friend Jason does. He's earned another varsity letter here at Time to Shine today. You know, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I absolutely love your guts. You're humble, yet you're hungry. And I love collaborating with you, Jason. Thank you so much.
Well, Scott, man, it's been great being on here, and I appreciate you having me on. It's always good to talk shop with you, man, because there's so much good that comes from it. So
thanks, brother. We'll chat soon, my friend.
Yep.